striving to have as much positive emotion in your life is really important in the quest to actually have a meaningful, fulfilling, flourishing life. But it's also not about striving to completely eliminate anything that is not positive. So here's the other kind of cool thing about this, and that is that positive emotions can be cultivated. A certain amount of how we experience positive emotion, especially happiness in particular, is within our control. A certain amount is behavioral, a certain amount is environmental, and also a certain amount is a genetic element to it. But there's a lot of positive emotion that we all have full access to. Those things like joy and love and hope and compassion, right? We can actually do things. We can proactively say yes to things that will create these in our lives and bring more into our lives. So a couple of ideas here that just sort of plant some seeds for you. One, super simple joy exercise. Identify one single activity. Doesn't have to be big. In fact, the simpler, the better. Don't think about big, grand, complex things. One really simple activity or action that brings you joy, right? It could even be a quick conversation with a person. It could be a walk outside, and then make a commitment. When you wake up in the morning, make your joy commitment that by the end of the day, before you lay your head on your pillow, you'll write down that one joy driving action and you'll do it before the end of the day. So for me, a big thing, I'm coming to you from the mountains in Colorado right now, about a mile above sea level. And as I'm looking at you, I'm looking past you behind the camera that I'm looking into right now. I'm actually looking out over a lake in a window. And then even further past that, I'm looking at the front range of the Rockies. And what I know is that I've chosen to be in this place in no small part because actually, as soon as we're done, I'm going to be heading out the door and taking a little bit of a hike in the mountains. So one of my joy activities is going to be making sure that I actually get out and take a walk in the mountains before I go to bed tonight. That's a really simple one. There's another kind of really fun and interesting subtle variation of joy. And that's a phrase that is called appreciative joy. It's actually a translation of something called one of the four immeasurables in Buddhism, which are qualities that you really want to bring to the way that you move through your life. And this experience of appreciative joy is really fascinating to me because it's like vicarious joy. So when you're in a moment in your life where you may be struggling to find or do those things that will bring you an immediate sense of joy, appreciative joy is this experience. It's an emotion that we get when we witness or experience or in some way participate in the experience of joy from somebody else. We're literally allowing ourselves to be vicariously joyful for that other person's joy or success. So this shows up very often in the role of a parent. So like I'm a parent, and I cannot tell you how many times where I've been having a tough day, and somehow I talk to my kid, and she's just accomplished something that she worked so hard for. And there's a big smile. She's just radiating joy. And the joy that I feel for her being able to feel that joy is vicariously passed into me. And it becomes this thing that actually changes me. It is sort of like this vicarious source of positive emotion that we can sometimes tap into, even when it's not necessarily the easiest thing to be available to us through our own direct actions on any given day. So think about that as an interesting possible way. And I want to plant a seed for one third way that we can experience positive emotion. One of the positive emotions that's been really well researched that is incredibly powerful in changing the way that we feel is gratitude. And we've talked about it in a lot of different ways on Growth Day. I've talked about it. I know a bunch of the other coaches have talked about it. In the research, it is one of the most effective ways to actually change the way that you feel really quickly. And a lot of times people talk about creating gratitude journals or gratitude diaries, like write down the 3 things that you're doing. One of the most effective gratitude interventions is actually something called the gratitude visit, where you think about somebody who's made a really big difference in your life. And maybe you've fallen out of touch with them. Often that you're not immediately still in conversation with them, and you've never expressed the difference that they've made to you and to your life. And you take a little bit of time, you sit down with a piece of paper and you write a letter to them expressing the gratitude that you feel for them. Now, in the classic gratitude visit, if that person is available to you, what you would do, and if it's not uncomfortable for them, what you would do is you would reach out to them and you would say, hey, can I actually share something with you? And if it was possible to be with them in person, that would be great. These days, that can sometimes be more challenging. So thankfully, we've got these fantastic virtual platforms to help with this now. And you ask if you might just have a little bit of their time. And you literally, you read your letter to them. And research shows us that that has a stunning effect on your physical and psychological well-being that tends to last far beyond the immediate window of when you do the gratitude visit. But here's the interesting variation of that I wanted to share with you today. A lot of people are actually thinking about those people, but those people who've made a difference in their lives may not be immediately available to them, either geographically. They may have lost touch with them and not know how to be back in touch with them. They may have passed on. And so they may not literally be available to read a letter to. There's a modification of the gratitude visit, which has been shown to be incredibly grateful. And the modification is called actually a vicarious gratitude visit. And here's what you do. You do the same thing. You find that person, you think about them, you write the letter. Even though they're not available to you, what you do is you take two chairs, right? And you place them in a room where they would sort of represent the nature of your relationship. So if it's really close, they might be sort of like, like right really up close, facing each other, like you're facing the other person. If it's sort of like more of a distance type of relationship, you might spread the chairs out a little bit more. And then you sit there and you imagine the person in the chair and you read the letter to them. And then there are two more parts to this. Once you're done doing that, you then sit in that other person's chair as if you were them, assuming the role of being that person. And you can look through the letter again and you feel it as if that letter was being read to you and you were that person. And then you respond saying, whatever it is, thank you so much for sharing that. It meant the world to me. I never knew that I actually made that kind of difference to you. And then the final piece is you go back to the original chair as the reader, the writer of the letter, and you say your final piece. This has been an incredibly powerful way to affect positive emotion, especially when we don't have ready or immediate or easy access to that person. In the past, we just assumed that it wasn't really, okay, so then this intervention wasn't available to us. Now we know that you can create a vicarious gratitude visit that is stunningly powerful in its ability to actually harness and change positive emotion.